Then, somewhere along the way, the big platforms moved in. Last year, $200 billion flowed upwards, away from the people who actually play. This year, they take it back. YOM, where players play games straight from your PC, not a data center in Virginia. Meet Tyler Pemberton. Yes, this looks dramatic, but he's perfectly fine. Tyler's offline. His PC isn't. 47 players streaming from his GPU right now. Even AFK, Tyler's rig is pulling its weight. He's making money in his sleep. Maybe this is what happens when gamers finally take control of their own world. Turn your idle GPU into passive income. YOM.net. Eat, sleep, earn, repeat.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome, Rohan and Dirk, to the town hall. Thanks everyone for joining us. We got a lot to go over today, and I'm really glad to have our tech team represented by these two guys because there's so much tech stuff that's been going on in the background. They were showing me earlier in the week. I was like, we've got to get this out for everybody to see because it's so damn impressive. You guys are doing some great stuff. Welcome, guys. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna do the same thing I always do. I'm gonna kind of start by vamping a little bit just to give people time to find the stream because it takes a few seconds for it to click into X and people to find us. And I asked you guys this question, but I didn't get the answer from you guys. Here we go. You guys know who Jim Cramer is? I guess maybe not everyone in the world knows who Jim Cramer is. Jim Cramer is this he's an economic guy on CNBC, and he talks, this is what's important, that's what's important, this is what's going to sell well, that's not going to sell well. Unfortunately, for him, it's just crazy. He's been around for like 20 years. He was a guy who, he said the day before Bear Stearns crashed, he's like, don't sell Bear Stearns. Bear Stearns is fine. You're crazy if you're selling Bear Stearns. And of course, the very next day it crashed. He's so good at being wrong that they've made a fund that follows his predictions, his incorrect predictions. It's called the inverse Cramer. And if you've never seen this before, it follows. He's like so opposite of, you do the opposite of Cramer, you do very well. And he's talking about hyperscalers are being embraced by NVIDIA. And I worry a little bit for NVIDIA because they're such a powerful company. I'm sure that's really not going to affect NVIDIA, the Cramer indicator, but just be aware. Jim Cramer's talking about NVIDIA, so welcome everybody to the town hall. So we've got a lot to go over. I want to just quick give a couple of project updates, just at the high level of stuff that's going on, and then we'll get into the tech update and everything that these guys are here to show us. So we are at Gamescom is wrapping up. Germany, the team's out in Germany, the BizDev team, and they're out in Germany. The last year, if everyone remembers, we won the Tech Game Startup of the Year, beat out about 300 other applicants to get the prize. When we showed up at the conference, we knew we were in the top 10, but had no expectation that we were going to make it to the number 1 slot. We just were happy to be in the top 10 out of that 300. And then the day of the event, hey, congratulations, YOM has won. So if you're looking for that link, by the way, it's on the Gamescom link. Just search for Invest Circle, you'll find it. But because we won that award last year, they invited us to come back this year and talk. And that's where Andy, I think he just did this just yesterday. Let's go over here. So there he is, up on stage, showing off his Hawaiian shirts and all that. So again, we got a chance. We got free admission to the whole show, and then Andy got up on stage and explained what it's like to win the Invest Circle award that we won last year, and what it means for us and what we've accomplished in the past year. So if you guys were looking for, not everyone gets into this Invest Circle presentation because it's really for those tech startups that are looking for investment. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if you went to Gamescom and didn't even know this event was happening, but it did. And there we are. And that's what's going on there. And then the other update that I wanted to get, well, that actually, I guess that was both updates. Yeah, that was the whole thing. Yeah, so we did our talk, and the guys are on their way back now. I think Andy's on an airplane as we speak, and Yor is driving back, from what I understand. I also like showing off. I always like showing this off. So let me bring that over here. And I think once again, Ron, you can take a bow for this. The nanos and how well this network is expanding. I mean, it's almost. I mean, it's very exciting to me, right? This is. By the way, this is, if I'm correct, you can tell me I'm wrong. This is still not all the nanos that we have that are in transit. Is that right?
Yeah, definitely not. And then today morning I was thinking like whether should we do those or not. Like we can add dots and then with a different color saying that okay those are in transit. But I said okay I know let them come on board and then let it show green.
Yeah. Let's and you guys got a lot on your plate already. But we're seeing some pink spots as well pop up. That just means that someone's out there playing a game. And that the connection that you showed me this morning, or that you showed us this morning, are we gonna make that live for everybody, or is it just gonna be for people like me as a nano operator, which I am? I kind of want to see where I've been connecting to. It turned out that was actually we can find out right now, can't we? Who's he? This guy's playing off of Clemmy. Okay, this guy down in Texas is playing off of. Where is he playing? I don't see where he's playing off of. We have to give it a second to register. He just fired up, but you can see which is connecting to. And I connected all the way up to Chicago. Turns out, which was pretty amazing. That's like a 12-hour drive. So I'm sorry. The question I asked you, and then I talked over you. Are we going to? Is that connection piece going to be part of the map so nano operators can see where they're connected to?
Yeah, I mean, so Jeroen had two options. Like he gave us two options, and then he's checking what to do. So one is that okay, we can put it on the app network page itself, on the same page that you're showing, and then the other option is that okay, we can show on the website as itself. So he is exploring different options, what's best, and then how can we kind of export this data, have it real time, and then show. So and then for us it would be like to create a widget out of it, and then we can reshare it on the website as well. So I think next week he should be able to have a design for us, and then we can get cracking.
Nice. Yeah, so I'm going to start off really the whole conversation with what you had said last week, which I thought was really insightful, is that up to this point, our big push has been for getting the nanos built solid and shipped out there and getting the network expanded. Like that was the drive, gosh, for the past, certainly the past 6 months or 8 months, since the beginning of the year anyways. But now that that's been accomplished, the next step is something different. And we have to really kind of switch our mindset into, now we have to harden the network that we've got. We're still going to obviously work to get more nanos in operation. But at this point, it's a matter of filling up the network with players and getting the network solid and targeting any of the problems that we come across and making it a better network overall. Is that, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but how did you say it to me, and how do we talk about it?
Yeah, I mean, like there were a lot of things, running in parallel in that sense, right? So first is, of course, the Nano OS development. So, we kind of did a lot of testing and a lot of scenarios, and also, so that was, the work that we put in, for the last 6 or 8 months. So that's the one. The second objective that the team had was, having, a player connected to a Nano. As long as they are in a valid condition. For example, they are within the range, there is a nano available in the vicinity, and then the game is available on the nano. So that was the object, because we saw earlier that okay, many of the players were not able to even connect to a nano which was available to them. So that was the second objective which was running in parallel. Then the third objective which was running in parallel was all on the token side as well, right? In a way, so like the payout system that we wanted to evaluate, different launch pads, different things related to let's say how can we do the calculations for the payout, with different trading platforms and vesting schedule, and also these. And then there were a lot of minor items in a way, like related to monitoring, debugging, and doing some analysis.
Right, right. And then and then we got to the, well, actually, before we do that, Dirk and I spent a lot of time with the story map today talking about like what's the full flow for both the people who play games and the people who, and then also the people who purchase a Nano and operate a Nano. And yeah, we got to a certain point, a certain depth in those columns, right, Dirk, that we're like, okay, well, that's important, but maybe, we haven't gotten all the way to from the beginning to the end of the journey. And the first call of action was, let's make sure that we can go all the way through the journey at some level before we go too deep down into any one column. Do you want to reflect on how that story mapping process is working out for you?
Yeah, so it's also an exciting thing to do. And basically the story map itself, like if you see it like the big picture and you see everything, then you're like, okay, there are so many things that you need to think about. And it actually expands it also because like every block gets more questions,
Yeah.
and like basically scoping it down to what is actually from A to Z, basically A to Z. That process needs to be first, and then we can expand on all the little things,
Yeah.
even though they're important. But yeah,
It becomes fractal as you get to we have the epic story map, and each epic gets their own story map, and then within there that gets a task map. It's a fractal, and it can be complex, and not everyone, I think a lot of people who've been following us for a while recognize, oh, I didn't even do the whole, I guess the trailer video kind of explains what the whole product is. But if you think about all the different aspects, as Dirk and I were doing today, you've got the devices themselves that have to be manufactured and shipped. You got the OS, the software that goes on, the OS that goes on that has to be made hardy. You've got the network connector, the orchestrator that's watching all that stuff. You've got the Walter GG site that demonstrates all the stuff that we're doing. We got our own website that has to be visible for everybody who's looking at the project for the first time. All the marketing, all the social media, all the business outreach. There are so many different pieces to juggle. I like story maps. I've been a fan of story maps since I first discovered what they do and how well they demonstrate. They visualize a product. I'm a visual thinker, so I was glad to see everybody kind of go, "Yeah, that's a great idea. Let's make the story map the starting point for all of our discussions." So
yes.
Yeah.
all right. So now here we are. Go ahead.
Sorry,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
two things that I wanted to add is more on the deliverables, like the support .yom.net as well, that we were working on, which has all the documentation in a way, and then all FAQs and all. And then there is also an interactive chat system that we have developed for the nano operators. Who have any questions, they can interact with our mods there. And then the other deliverable more from Derek's end was all the content, like all the games and the Steam integration part, which was very important, and then a lot of work in that sense. So I can do one town hall itself on the Steam integration, like, okay, just a Steam integration, it's easy that you log in and then you get connected, but oh my god, like there is a lot of work behind the scenes, right from updates to the game, testing the game, mobile support, non-mobile support, landscape, portrait, different browsers to test on, persistent
iPhone,
login,
Android.
and yeah.
And not every Steam game, from what I understand, now I'm gathering from you guys' conversations with me, not every Steam game is like one Steam game is not the same process as another Steam game. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because they have their different launchers as well. So there's the Steam launcher, and then they have their own launcher. They check internally as well. So Steam checks if there is any game update. The game itself checks if there is any game updates available. They do their own checking, and then we have to wait for that as well. And then for that, we need to do some UI transitions. And then sometimes if the game is not updated, then it does not allow to boot, and then we again have to check if there is another nano who has the latest update and also.
Wow. Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So that was network building and expansion, like getting the network stood up and expanded to where we are right now. And now it becomes the next goal, which is the hardening. Or how would you say it, Rohan?
Like if you follow all the interactions that we've had in the past, the town halls where I was part of, right, like the conversation was more around, let's say, right at this moment we are collecting data, right, that okay, how many sessions, what errors that we are getting, and then the next step that I mentioned was more on analyzing the data, and then the third step was reacting to it or taking actions, right. So at this moment, like the data collections is definitely in progress, but we have moved to the next phase of let's say analyzing them, right? So as part of analyzing, it comes, okay, that what are the problems, right? Like after the player is connected, when the stream actually starts, then how's the stream going, what's the fps, what's the bit rate, for example, is there any jitter, and then doing all those live analysis and saying that, okay, where's the problem, right? How's the rating? So we want to basically go to the goal that we want to build the orchestrator, where it says, okay, for any incoming player connection, we want to check, okay, what's the best nano available, right? Not only based on the distance, but based on the past history, right? Okay, how is the upload speed, how is the connection, what was the fps, right, at that moment, and then based on that we are rating or giving a score to a nano as well as to the game, right? So now in game as well, like we have, okay, what how much VRAM does it need, what's the CPU does it need. So like on the last post that I made, so I thought, okay, just check VRAM, we are good. But testing all these different games, you said, okay, no, it's not only VRAM, but CPU is also a bottleneck, right? And then and also it's not the number of CPUs, but the speed the core has. So that was also very important. So I was crazy. So like we score a game as well as the nano. Sorry.
Let me plug, if you're interested in where all this stuff is being published, this is on your LinkedIn, right? You've been publishing
Yep.
all this on your LinkedIn. So a plug for Rohan's LinkedIn. If you haven't followed him on LinkedIn, but you're curious about this technology, that's the account you want to go to. I'm not doing that on my LinkedIn is not nearly as technically leading as yours is. This is probably a good time to bring up the dashboard. Yeah. So we can talk
Yeah,
about
sounds
it.
good. Yeah,
So
yeah.
in order to get this information and to sift through all this information, you designed this, which when you first showed it to me, I was like, show me more, show me more. I've got, there's plenty of filters that we can, and I'll zoom in a little bit so we can see a little bit better, but plenty of filters. I can't minimize that though, can I? But right now I have selected that we have no faults detected, and the session length, did I do? Yeah, I think I have it over 2 minutes. And because I kind of want to see the stuff that was over 2 minutes long. And for the no fault detected, like this is a completely, I guess you can define it for me wrong, but my understanding is if we got green like this, that means everybody was happy. There was no concerns, no faults.
Exactly.
And so we can watch how long people were playing for. We got a 39-minute session, 22-minute session. This is small numbers compared to some of the other ones, but
Yeah.
these are good signs. And again, this is me, GW Main 34, yay, and
Yeah.
this is Chicago, which is 1,100 kilometers away,
Yeah.
and that someone played Skyrim for 40 minutes basically off my Nano, which
Yeah.
is pretty dang impressive. What else do you want to say about any of these numbers before I'm going to flip over to some of the other filters, but
Yeah, so like on the analysis that we did today morning as well, like the average kilometer length that we see is like around 1150. That's the average distance that we cover as well. So we see players from different distance, and then we are able to match make them, and then give or provide a stream to them. So like an average is like 1150, which is quite good.
wow.
Yeah. And so like internally how it works, like after every session is done, like we do an analysis on the complete it's more of an agentic an eval loop that we have built, where after every session it goes through all the events, stats and all, and then determines, okay, what was the problem, and then we kind of rate, right? And like if you see the scores column, like there's a left and the right. So left side says that, okay, it's the player score, and then the right side shows the nano scores, and then based on that we say, okay, uh, how do we rate this session, right? So first, no fault detected, everyone was happy, and then we say, okay, like player, if it's a player problem or a nano problem or an infrastructure problem, right? So like one of the issues that we saw is that that there was one of the codecs that we didn't support, and then when a player wanted to connect, and then we said, okay, sorry, we could not establish a connection. Then looking at that, so it's not nano problem, right? It's not the player problem, but it's more of an infrastructure problem, right? So if because we have to fix, and then that fixes for all the incoming connections. So we kind of check that, fix that, and then post that fix. Now we don't see that error, basically. So like we are kind of tagging all these verdicts into different kind of saying areas where it's a player problem, nano problem, mixed problems, infrastructure problem, or no fault at all. And then based on that, we are taking actions, and then again checking if there are any further errors.
So I got a couple questions, right? On this, let's say this session right here, where the millibytes per second was 0.2. That seems super low, but this was considered a no fault, and the guy played for, well, that was 3 minutes. It was a 6 minute one, 6 minute one, but the transfer rate was 0.1 mil. That sounds like that's too low for a good experience, but they stayed on for 6 minutes. What's going on there?
Yeah, so like it could be that the guy is on mobile, and then on mobile, like we kind of have a different resolution. We support low resolution, and then with that resolution we transfer less bytes, so that so that's an optimization that recently that we
that might be a filter worth having here. I assume we can do that, but we can tell whether they're on a PC or on mobile, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Maybe we want to call them for that, you think?
Sure. Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Yeah,
put it on the list.
yeah, definitely. Yeah. And by the way, all this UI, just putting it out that this is all dev made. Nothing that Yorun has designed, by the way, right? So
right.
Yeah. So just something important. Otherwise, people would say, okay, this is all something hacked up.
Right. Let's show some of the really long sessions, because even with a weak signal, we had some people playing. Where did we go? 60 minutes, 93 minutes. 274 minutes down here. This guy was playing Marvel Rivals in Amsterdam. So it wasn't that far to travel, 122 kilometers, but for basically 8 hours, 7 hours.
Yeah. Yes. And then, there were like Counter-Strike, sessions as well, which, quite, exciting. Like I love Counter-Strike. So, any round which goes for 20 minutes. So I say that, okay, if someone is playing for an hour, so at least 2 rounds.
Yeah, one thing I thought, that another filter I'm going to ask for, because I'm going to always ask for too much, but a way to just take a look at each individual nano, just filter by nano, because the Uruguay, the guy down in Uruguay who's got his nano running, he had a whole ton of sessions of, it was all Counter-Strike. Somebody close by to him is playing a lot of Counter-Strike off his machine, which I thought was pretty. Actually, let me just turn this off.
Yeah, definitely. And then in Vietnam as well, I think that that nano also has a lot of
That's right.
Counter-Strike.
And that speaks to, if you're looking at the map that we showed earlier, and you're in a region that's dark. This one guy down in Uruguay and the one person out in Vietnam is getting all the traffic. So obviously they're capitalizing on the idea that there's no one else in their area. So if you are in a dark space, it might be worth considering, or at the very least, do the rig check and find out if you could host, because then you get to own that whole territory.
True. Yeah.
What else? So again, once again, player weak means. Go ahead.
Yeah, player weak means that there's no a definitive thing that okay, it's a player problem, right? Because the score for the player is too less. So then it is the thing that okay, we need to re-evaluate this session and then find out whether it was actually how was the experience for the player, right? If the experience was bad, then we kind of rate the score high, and then we say definitive it was a player issue. But at this moment it was kind of it merges. So nano weak and player weak is almost saying that okay, no fault detected, like
okay
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And just player by itself, what does that mean?
Player by itself is just purely a player issue, where it lands purely to the connection was an issue for them, because they had a lot of freezes, a lot of stutter. So and now to determine that as well, what we kind of compare, like in a nutshell, saying that okay, if the upload speed, right, if the frames which are sent from the nano is at the FPS or the speed that we expect, but the download and the decoding part is too low, on the player side, that is where we determine it's a player problem, right? It is not. So if the nano itself, for example, is not sending as needed due to XY reasons on their network, then we cannot say that it's a player problem, because if let's say the input is slow, then and then we can also receive slow, for example. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay, and that could be also mobile if someone's
Yes.
mobile network is just kind of crap, they're away from a good signal, that kind of thing. Okay. Yeah. So again, what I called this this episode of I get the title of this podcast, Directed Energy Weapon, because I thought that was nice. It should catch some eyes, I hope, on YouTube. But what we're saying is we can now direct our energy to the problems that this data is showing us. We don't have to go hunting back in to see what's going to make improvements. We can, tell me if I'm wrong, but we can look at this data now and say, oh, obviously this is a problem that this is a problem that a group of nanos are having, so we should fix that one first. Fair
Definitely.
to say?
Yeah. So now behind the scenes, like what we are developing, I think next week it should be there. That okay, we are trying to find a pattern. That okay, what are the problems, and then we tackle the highest pattern, or the topmost pattern, right? Irrespective of let's say we first want to solve all the issues on the nano end, right? That, and then on the infrastructure end. So the sequence is that okay, we do the nano, then the infrastructure, then we do the mix one, and then lower down we check okay, when it's a player problem, what can we do, right? If it is purely about the download bandwidth, then we can't do much. What we can do, like we are already doing, but we can optimize further on the number of packets that we are sending. But also this is game, right? It's not if someone is playing Counter-Strike, then we cannot say okay, I'll make it slow.
Yeah.
Can you make my aim better on Counter-Strike, because I suck at it?
By the way, I would like to tie into that a bit. It's
Sure.
like this is like mainly connection and that kind of stuff, but we also started tracking telemetric data, which determines like the game's behavior, and that is also something that we are very keen on knowing, because that will make the experiences just better. So we make a framework for that. It's called Melt, and basically that we have the games, certain quality, certain genres are the same. Some things are like more requiring your PC to work hard, sometimes a bit less. But categorizing them, get the patterns right, and then like knowing what resources we can use for each game as well to also optimize that part.
Yeah. It's a problem. Again, more of what we talked about earlier today, Dirk. But there's the a game that has a small lift. There's ones that have a generally small lift but a high lift on the GPU, or ones that require more CPU than GPU, or I don't know. We had a whole bunch of different criteria that we talked about, and so I know that there's an effort. We've got to really be able to rate these games so that when we do the loadout for each nano, or the
instant scaling, basically.
Thank you. See, there's technical terms to all that stuff. To do the instant scaling correctly, we have to have the scoring system for each game. And then we can turn to the publishers or people who are putting the games on the network to give them some incentive to make it more optimized, or to build it a certain way, and in some ways help themselves out, because then their cost would be less to put it on the network. Is that's kind of fair to say?
Yeah, the reward's really to optimize your game properly.
Which again, that always ends up, just so you guys know, that happens at the very end generally, and it ends up being a huge problem.
Is it?
So,
Whoa.
Well, because I mean, you spend a good on the project that I had the most success on. What we would try to do is get the game at the 50% mark of the schedule of the calendar. We had time to work on the game. The game should be shippable, like all the stuff is in there and working. And then you spend the second whole half of the schedule optimizing, bug fixing. You don't add any new features after the halfway point. You don't add new characters. Now that's on the best projects. And I would say of all the projects, and I've got probably 19 ship projects, I probably pulled it off on 2 that we hit that halfway point. But we try every time, because we know that's where you get the most stability at the time. That's why you're not pulling your hair out at shipping. So.
Right. Yes. So question on that, Jeff, like is there a framework or some kind of tool that they follow, or have while development, or checking the performance, right? Because like I don't have experience in game development and building and all, and prior let's say to this, we had built a document which says, okay, this is the standard, right? Like you follow these steps, okay, to check whether it is optimized or not. But if it can happen earlier during the development phase, then it's much better, I would say.
Oh yeah, it would be for everybody. Is there a standard document? When I was there, I mean, we made our own tools and we had our own kind of documents, but I think they were probably derived off of, again, I'm going back some years now, but derived off of what Epic would send out or what Unity would send out. They gave some guidelines, and
Right.
I imagine also some tools. At this point, they probably have a fully robust tool suite for optimization. But again, it's really just a matter of the guy who's running the schedule, being pushing forward on optimization the entire way through. But when you talk to your game director about, hey, we need to spend some time optimizing, he's like, no, but we've got to get the mana system built in. We got to add this new feature. Then you have to really be able to negotiate well to get for that kind of thing to happen in the schedule midway through, and not a new feature.
Time is always the problem.
Well, time and overly excited creativity, which is a double-edged sword. You want someone to be super creative, but you also want them to be at least practical about the time that they have available to them. All right, well, cool. So what have we not covered that we should have covered? I think we got it all. That's kind of the whole thing. I'll keep an eye on the community questions to see if any questions come up in the chats. But we did actually have some community questions that came in through the Telegram group, and I thought we'd touch on them real fast. One of them, Dirk, goes right to you and your role, because you sent out an email to the people on MultiGG who are playing, and you signed up as product owner there. But everyone knows you over here at YOM as well as a product owner over here at YOM. How do you circle those two roles together?
So yeah, they're quite intertwined, to be honest. It's like Rohan is like more on the infrastructure bit and I'm more of the product bit, but like the tech team has a lot of overlapping things. So it requires me and Rohan to coordinate a lot. But basically, it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of the same.
So there's one task tracking system, one schedule, but two products are going out. And yeah, the way that I was envisioning, the way I think about it anyways, is that Dirk has to kind of own both of those products that all belong to the same tech team. But I think everyone kind of understands at this point where the split is. YOM is a company that has a back end technology and all the patents and everything. And we're looking for a way. We always said, we struggled with this for the 4 years we've been running. How do we demonstrate the game for gamers, the technology for gamers, but don't force the gamers to understand the deep aspects of a decentralized cloud and what all that ties into there. So we finally, at the beginning of the year, decided that the best way to do this is actually not try to pitch them on both parts of what we've done, but split it out very cleanly. So Walter migrated, he left our company and went over to start Walter.gg. And that ends up being the playground. And again, it's just for gamers. If gamers want to not care about how the cloud works at all, and that they're not geeks about the technology, they go to Walter.gg and they just play. And that's a big audience. There's lots that we can do with that and a lot of people to appeal to. But all that needs to be supported by the technology that we're building over on the YOM side.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Walter is basically sort of the convenience of like everything. So it's gonna have a TV app. It's gonna have a mobile app. It's gonna have a desktop app. So it's very convenient and it's just looking clean and it's just there for games. So there's no information on like what we're building, how we're doing it. If you want to play Counter-Strike, just hop on Walter and play Counter-Strike. That's a bit of the ID. So no headache, basically. So just fast play.
And then we lose this amazing mascot over here at YOM. But honestly, we talked about this, do we replace it with a different mascot? But we really kind of said, you know what? We're a technology company. We don't really need a mascot. We don't need a gorilla walking around to show off what we are. We're technology, and that's kind of, it's a bit more dry, I suppose. But let the Walter side have the fun, and we'll over here, and we'll just keep nose down and do the work.
Yeah, I'm keeping Walter, by the way.
No, it's good stuff. And so for that, I'm going to have Walter merch and all that stuff. The logo, I think it ultimately came to Yurt, who finalized the logo, and I thought he did an amazing job. So.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah.
All right. What else have I not said, Rohan, that I should say?
Yeah. Yeah, and more on, let's say Dirk's role is like he said, like aligns on the tech as well, right? So how it aligns is like, okay, he has to do a lot of data analysis as well, right? So that involves, using different tools, maybe building something of his own, trying, right? And then interacting a lot with, the BT team, Andy and all. And then so basically he's filtering everything out, like which I had earlier, right? Like, okay, maybe, joining a lot of calls, initial calls, saying, okay,
Mm.
whether this is fit or not, to go ahead. What, if it is fit, how does it fit, right? And does it align with the, roadmap? For example, how many players do we expect if you onboard this publisher and this game example, right? And then, based on all this session data, what to build next, that is, kind of,
Yeah.
defined by Direct, right? Saying, okay, yeah, based on this information, this is what we need to build, and that's the roadmap. And for to build that, he has to either build a lot of tools by himself, or do reuse a lot of them,
Mm.
plus, attend a lot of calls.
And
Yeah.
and the other benefit to all this was your background was in shipping, and the nano shipping became a thing. We're like, well, should we do? Does anyone here know how to ship stuff? And Dirk's like, well, wait a minute, I did that for years. So that ended up falling into your camp too. You want to talk about
Yeah,
that?
like I basically reviewed all the things, and like basically reviewed all the contracts, and that was quite a bit of work. Um, but yeah, there's just like, because we have so many regions and so many jurisdictions in that sense. It's like the rules in, for example, Turkey are very different than in the US or in Europe for that matter.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, it needs a good look, to make sure we always comply with like the legals in that sense.
yeah, yeah. We've done a lot of compliance stuff in the last couple of weeks, and
Yeah.
it's been labor of love. Can we say that? Labor of like, anyways.
I'm unfamiliar with this phrase.
Oh, you're not
I'm
familiar
too,
with that?
no, I'm too Dutch for this.
Maybe it's a U.S. thing. All right. So the other question that we got was, considering that all the nanos that we sold to fresh miners, we still don't have a lot of reviews from people who have got them. So what's the feedback from the nano operators that we've had so far? And then we'll talk about why maybe fresh miners doesn't have a lot of comments on the sales page. But Ron,
Yeah.
you've been fielding a lot of this stuff. Is that not right?
Yeah, like my gut feelings, there are two reasons as of now, right? So we shipped it, right? They bought it, right? And then there was no shipping in a way, like they had to wait, a lot. Now, it is that it has been now 3 weeks or so that they have onboarded, right? I think the next milestone in a way that they are waiting for is the payout system, right? So I think once the whole journey kind of, completes, right? Like right from buying to hosting to earning the rewards, I think that then they will have a clear picture of, how it went,
Mhm.
what is it, and then they can share feedback. That is, what I think, and it makes sense as like if I was a node operator, I would do that, right? Okay, like, okay, buying from Freshnizer was, for example, fast and easy, and then the onboarding part, right? It was good, like just, let's say, I would not say couple of steps, but following, XYZ process, and then I'm onboarded, and then, and then there is a dashboard where I can see my, earnings and sessions, and stats as well. And then the last is, okay, this is how much I have earned, right? And then, once that kind of loop completes, that they think they should be, able to review.
That seems pretty obvious. Go ahead, Dirk.
Yeah. Yeah, we also have like a lot of people that like are following us for a long time that bought, and they don't leave a review. They just contact us directly. Like we have a lot of those. Just people
Yeah.
like, yeah, I received it. It's working great. All that kind of stuff.
Now,
But like, yeah,
we did have two people, right, Ron, who made the mistake of the one thing that maybe we didn't get the word out strong enough about this, but they moved the nano from one machine to another, and that caused a problem. But that was only, if I'm right, that's the only two hiccups that we had.
Yeah. So those two people kind of reported that, saying that, okay, this is the issue. So they onboarded successfully first, and then, one of the guys had two gaming machines, and then he onboarded first, on one of them, and then he had some work. So they said, okay, yeah, I have another one. Let me just plug the nano in, and then, continue, there, and then I can work from this machine. But unfortunately, we kind of, tie that because of all the drivers and motherboard and configuration. So that's why we don't support. So that, so then he got on like an error message, and support QR code, and that's where he, communicated with us, and then we kind of helped him, restore his nano. So
Okay.
those are the two players, or nano operators who had issues. Others, I think no one kind of say that okay, I'm having problems in a way. So the
Yeah.
onboarding went well.
That's the other thing
Yeah,
too. I mean, reviews generally end up you're what I think the numbers are something like 5 times more likely to get a bad review than good review. People just don't think to leave good reviews, which is kind of a shame. Dirk, you were going to say something?
yeah, like, and it's also like some problems that are like unforeseen in that sense. That are like, for example, I had an issue with the connection. And I was investigating, and I couldn't figure out what was the problem because the distance was good, the rig check was a success, and all that kind of stuff. And in the end, it was that he used, I don't know the English word for it, but like the wall sockets that get your internet from like downstairs to upstairs via the power cable.
Right.
But that makes it so that you stop going over fiber optics and you go over
Uh,
copper wire, and that introduces a lot of latency. And like finding that out, that was kind of like a challenge in that sense. Oh, yeah, that exists as well. That happens. Uh,
That's why I think in the documentation and the video I recorded, it was have direct lines,
yeah.
use Ethernet cable and have a direct line to your router as short as possible.
Yes.
That should cover. Maybe we want to explicitly say don't use the wall socket transmission lines because that doesn't work for the Nano.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's super handy to like if you want to do something, but if you want to play games, then it becomes a problem.
Yeah, yeah.
Or host games in our case.
Yeah,
But
and to, last bit on the review as well, like we have kind of testimonials and reviews on yom.net, and those are all legit, those are all genuine. So if people want to take a look at it, they can take a look at it. Those are from all our alpha testers. And then we explicitly didn't move it to fresh miners because they didn't actually buy it from fresh miners because they were part from kind of we can say batch 0, not 1 and 2, but batch
Right,
0, where we
right, right.
manually shipped it. So so just a feedback that they shared, and then it's posted there but not on fresh miners.
Yeah, and we've talked. I think I've talked to Gloria already about this, but we should run a quest campaign for the Nano operators that gives them rewards, XP for leaving a review, good or bad. We don't necessarily need to be good or bad, but just leaves them for a review, so that we have some numbers anyways on, obviously better if it's positive, and it should be positive. But I think you made a good point, Ron. I hadn't even thought about it, but they might be waiting till the whole loop is complete to see what they're earning. They hate to leave a good review and then find out they weren't earning enough to keep it operational. That's so I guess I'm okay right now if there's no reviews. Because the loop's not complete. And I think people generally know that that loop there's more technology that has to be finished. We expect to finish it in September. So for August, the Nano operators, we sent out an email already, but we're going to be doing the process. It's going to be a little bit bulky, a little bit manual, but then come September, it'll all be automated and they can follow on the dashboard and all that.
Yeah. Kind of, we have built a new contract for the payout. So that's what we are testing, and it is in a way live or testing on our testnet. I think few links you have shared earlier, Jeff, in one of your town halls. But people can take a look on testnet, on AVAX testnet basically. So all those payouts are happening at this moment, and that's the contract that we are testing it. And then once that gets kind of audited and then reviewed, and then we are going to ship it next month to mainnet. So then the rewards would happen in a very real time.
Yeah, and then the last, I already talked about if you're in a blackened area on the map and you want to own that region, kind of like you guys played Risk. You know what Risk is, the game?
yes.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. So it's basically you want to just control the territory by being the first one there. But beyond that, the other part of it is if you are kind of like running a Nano and you're looking to earn that passive income, you also can be a spokesperson. You ought to be a spokesperson for getting people to start going to sites like Walter.gg and kind of on your own social media saying, hey, you don't have to say that you own a Nano. Just promote Walter.gg and to the people in your local. Hey, if you live in the upstate of South Carolina, you can play these, play Counter-Strike just by going to this website. And then I'm sitting back and earning tokens from my own promotion. So yeah. I don't think there's anything shady about that at all.
Yeah, definitely not.
Okay.
No, but that's like how the ecosystem is designed, right? It's like gamers that help other gamers to play games as well.
Yeah.
So it's like a beautiful ecosystem. I really love it.
Listen, there's a lot about what we, when you're first explained to us what he envisioned, and Andy and I started talking about it. And then obviously, Rohan, you kind of talked to us a little bit more about technology. There was a lot about not the technology side of things, but the change to the way that people are able to game that excited me. The idea that people can play high, AAA quality games without owning the massive PC. Even before I kind of really fully understood that cloud gaming exists and it's out there already. But then the idea that they could also earn passive income from their gaming rig, yeah, there's a lot of it that's very elegant. I'm I think I'm rightfully proud to say, happy that we put this all together.
Yes, agree 100%.
Definitely. Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm also excited on the next steps in a way, right? Like particularly on the payout system when actually the burning starts and all, right? And then you
Right.
see all the transaction on chain. And then, I think we would move the AVEX price as well up a bit because of the gas fees that we would pay and all. So yeah.
Yeah.
But that is one on the payout. And then the other part is like we saw on the session attribution thing, right? So like the objective next is to lower down as many errors as possible on the nano side, on the infrastructure side, and then have good quality streaming. And then I think we would, by that time or in a couple of months, we would have like instant scaling as well, once we have scoring system developed for the game and nano, and then we can have many concurrent sessions running on the same nano, and so that the node operators can be rewarded more and more.
Dirk, anything on the Walter GG site, feature-wise or game news that you can let out? I don't know how much we can say yet about some of the stuff.
What I can say, that is the good one. Yeah. So yeah, we're cooking a couple of things up that like we'll follow for now, but like we have the aim to like make the network as stable as possible first, and then like because we're still in the alpha phase, so we want to get the telemetric data and all those things like locked in, so we have the best performance that we can, and then we will go to the data point where we're going to expand to 10 games, and like those 10 games are not set in stone. So if you want a game, please let us know which one you want. And
well, that's one of the features we talked about is on the website having like a voting feature so that people can start voting on what games to bring on next.
Yes.
You said in your email that these 3 games, we picked these 3 games because each one gives us a different insight into a different piece. You want to talk about that real quick?
Yes, sure. So Counter-Strike is like the old guard. Basically, it's a very well developed game. It's very low on the resources that it uses, and like it is super competitive. So that is up the niche of a lot of people that want to play competitive. It's, I think, the hardest shooter there is. It's
Good,
hard
man.
to.
Now I don't feel so bad about being so bad at it. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah. If you watch the tournaments, like you have like a guy like Donk that's like one tapping people across the map with like pinpoint precision. It's like, okay, this guy is an aimbot, but no, he's not. So like, it's really cool. But that's also like for us a good test to scale instances with, because like it is not taking out much resources as other games. But on the other hand, we also wanted to have like a game that tells a story, and then Warframe comes in. So like that's more like a journey and an adventure. So it's a different genre. Is fun. Yeah, and then I couldn't resist putting Marvel Rivals up. Like I'm not gonna lie, that's just I wanted to play as the Punisher, and I think it's like as a well-made game. It's fun, it's quick, and it's like a hero shooter, which is a genre that is getting a lot of attention now. Actually, it's like it's very upcoming. It's competing with Overwatch 2 at the moment.
Is it fair to say we're going to keep on trying to get one of each genre, or that's really not a goal? We don't necessarily have to have like a sim and a driving game and all these other different genres.
Yeah, I think like depending on where we're going, but I think like the story-driven bits, that is definitely a direction that we want to do, and that ties into like features like cloud saving and that kind of stuff. But yeah, like I want to play Baldur's Gate 3 as well on Walter.
Is Walter just going to be all of the games that Dirk wants to play and is too cheap to buy? Is that what it's going to turn into?
No, you need to buy Baldur's Gate 3 to play.
Oh, yeah. Okay, all right.
But like yeah, but no, definitely like we also collect stats on what games are played. It's not just random, and it needs to have a certain thing that extends our tech stack as well. So it's not completely random. But yeah, of course, I have bias to certain games. That's like I'm not going to deny that at all.
Okay, fair enough. All right. I'm not seeing any more questions from the community. I think we're running pretty good, close to what we generally stop at, 15 minutes. But I'll give you guys last word. Anything else you want to say? And I'll just thank you guys.
Rohan, please, if you have, go first.
I would like to thank all the nano operators who kind of bought and the community as well. Thanks for the support and keep playing. Next months are exciting, I would say, particularly on the tech side.
Yeah. Then I'm gonna do the Walter side. It's like everyone that tried games from Walter. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah, but like if you want to help us out with this, like please play as much games as you can on Walter, and like help us get that network like super stable, super good, and then we can actually make something out of this. Because for me personally, is like gaming is something that got introduced in my life at a very young age. And like I play with some people that I've met in real life now as well, but I play with them for like over 20 years. I even convinced my mom to
Wow.
play games. So yeah, it's like and with like what we are building, like we give the opportunity that people that cannot afford a game PC to also have those experience. I just want everyone to have a great experience.
Yeah.
That's for me. That's why I'm passionate about it. That's like the most important bit for me.
I'll add to that, not only just you yourself play on Multi-GG, but tell your friends to start playing on Multi.gg. Get the more that people kind of promote that site, the more sessions get burned on YOM's technology, and there's again more transactions that happen. So that's really kind of that's the goal for us all, is to get the network traffic up. So Rohan, we talked about it a little bit. You're going to work on a graph that's going to show adoption, how many sessions per day over time, and we'll be able to look for a big swoop upward.
Yep.
Nice. All right, that's going to be it, folks, for today. I appreciate everyone's time. I like Ron says, I do appreciate everyone who's operating in Nano, everyone who's done the rig check. And if you haven't, it's app.yom.net/rig check. That's where you can go to find out, get an estimate of how much your earnings might be, but find out if your rig is powerful enough to run, if your network connection's fast enough to run a Nano. And you can see on the map again where your sessions might land. And then I'll say what I say every week, right? Be good to yourself. Be good to the people around you. Tell someone you love them. Touch grass barefoot. You want to ground yourself. Drink lots of water. Get out in the sun, but not too much. And go out at night and see the stars. And we'll talk again next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.